morning, good morning, good morning. Welcome to another episode of The High Five. Today we're going to be talking about great things, a 90s TV bracket that we're starting for the next several days, where we talk about the top 20 shows of 90s television and decide which one is the best. Who will win? We do not know. 20 come in, one will leave. It'll be a great interactive conversation. We're going to talk about golf and NASCAR. They have plans to come back. Is that a good idea? And how weird is it going to be to watch giant stadiums with no one in it? That's going to be really weird. We're going to talk about how we can help all kinds of lawn services, how we can help plumbers, how the Paperotech services are some of the best to help in these times where things have changed, and even how we want to help right now. And this and so much more, and a special guest on The High Five.
The time has come, the questions are said, opinions hide, discussions are led. Show about nothing and everything, it's all the same. We've got sports, entertainment, sales, and marketing. It's time for the High Five. We've got it all covered. It's time for the High Five. We've got it all covered, yeah. The High Five.
All right, The High Five. Welcome, everybody. Thank you very much for joining us. We have some special guests. So Mr. Brian Linke can't be with us. It's his first day missing. He's got some special things he's working on today, so he's not with us. But we brought in the best substitute, and maybe better than we could possibly have imagined. We'll talk about that in a second. But in the... let's see. Let me look at my shots. In the left-hand shot, from Glenwood Springs, Colorado, from the home of incredible amounts of elk, from the best-looking man, I think probably in all of northern and southern Colorado all combined, it's Mr. Danny Shard. How are you, Danny?
I'm doing good, Nate. Thanks for the intro. It's Cinco de Mayo, and I really wanted to have a Corona to kind of celebrate Cinco de Mayo with everybody. We all need an excuse to celebrate right now, obviously, but I just didn't have it in me at 8 o'clock in the morning to bring a Corona on the show, but I'll be doing it this afternoon.
That is awesome. Well, and now from, I believe the town she's sitting in, is that Rifle, Colorado? What town are you sitting in? Well, you tell me in a second. But she is the person that came in and made the Colorado office the Colorado office. She certainly improved and made, Danny is so good looking that he had to go and make a superstar. And you know what? She makes me look bad every day because I've been watching her Instagram, and the amount of burpees that she does so quickly and still looks this amazing is it's ridiculous. Miss Jason Lee Cook. How are you, Mrs. Jason Lee Cook?
Hi, Nate. I'm good. I'm in Newcastle, Colorado.
That's right. I couldn't remember which
town.
You think
I do those burpees quickly, but I really use a video editor to speed it up to get it over with as fast as possible. But I'm still doing a lot of them, if it counts.
Hey, that's
killing everybody with their workout routings.
Well, you got to do that sometimes. And so we're going to get started, and we have lots of things to talk about this morning. We're going to start with a bracket, and I actually realized I didn't bring the graphic up, so I'm gonna bring it up for myself here. But I'm going to ask these guys the first question. How much 90s television have you watched? So both of these we define 90s television as it played at least 3 years during the 90s, and then we went to ranker.com and found out which ones ranked the most. But I'm interested, as a connoisseur of 90s television, how much of a connoisseur? Danny, were you a big connoisseur of 90s television?
No, I mean, this category was made for me. I am like, I have a lot to contribute to the 90s TV topic. How
about you, Jason Lee?
I was pretty little. I was a late 80s baby, but there was a few that definitely jump out. I didn't really watch them in real time back then because I was always outside playing, but watching them back now, definitely there's a handful that I can think of. Me and my husband actually had a pretty strong argument last night after you sent us these topics over which was the best. So.
Oh, that is awesome. I can't wait to do that. All right, so I'm going to bring up our bracket. I don't know if people can read this, but I can read it. So I created a little bracket. I spent way too much time on this. You don't. I'm trying to find how to do this. So we're going to do the first round today, and so they were all seeded by Ranker.com by the most per episode average views is what they did. So you can see the number one overall seed that got a bye into the second round was The Simpsons, and that was simply because of how Ranker.com, I had to make a choice to do it. So we're going to start in the upper left-hand corner, and the first is our 16 versus 17 seeds, and I'm interested if either of these watch this. So we have two shows, Buffy the Vampire Slayer, which I'm going to admit I have never seen and kind of feel like I should have, and Everybody Loves Raymond, which was kind of a mid-90s to mid-2000s show. So, did you guys watch either of these two shows?
Everybody Loves Raymond. I definitely saw some, but Buffy, no. I think these out of the bracket that you have, I think these were the ones that I really have nothing to contribute on, unfortunately. But I do like Raymond.
All right, so we got one vote for Everybody Loves Raymond from Danny Shard. I remember, so Everybody Loves Raymond is one of those shows tied back to like the Seinfeld. Ray Romano was a stand-up comedian from the Cellar in New York City, Manhattan, kind of grew up, was telling us some of his personal stories and was taking that and turning that into real life and trying to kind of a biopic story around who he was. And we've seen multiple comedians do that since then. Jason Lee, did you ever see Buffy the Vampire Slayer?
I did not.
Okay.
No, it was not one I ever watched. But my husband kind of likes Everybody Loves Raymond, so every once in a while he'll make me sit through one or two with him. It's funny, but definitely not at the top of my list.
All right, but I think because by default and by Buffy the Vampire Slayer unfortunately loses because none of us have seen it, and it is a trendy hit, and I know it pops up. I think it's on my Hulu or something. It's something I can watch often, but I just haven't. I never have, so maybe I will. But let's get in. But so Everybody Loves Raymond moves on and is going to be taking on The Simpsons tomorrow. So that'll be an interesting competition because I'm intrigued where that's going to go. So our number 2 seed, number 13, number 2 today, we're going to go through 4 of these, is Seinfeld versus Whose Line Is It Anyway? The beginning of the stand-up comedy mixed with just the show about nothing. Seinfeld versus Drew Carey's improv with Whose Line Is It Anyway? Made incredible, I didn't realize how many years it was on when I was looking. I think it was 14 years that show stayed active in different series. Let's start with Jason Lee on this one. Jace, have Seinfeld or Whose Line Is It Anyway? Are you a viewer of either of these two?
Oh, absolutely. This was part of our argument last night. So my husband is a diehard Seinfeld fan. I always thought Whose Line Is It Anyway? It was funny, but I'd have to, just for my husband's sake, I'd have to vote for Seinfeld.
All right, and Seinfeld gets one vote. Danny, did you watch Whose Line Is It Anyway? Is that show, did that pop into your system and something you watched over the time?
Listen, yes, and it's hilarious. Some of the improv, which I don't believe it was all improv, but these guys were just amazing, very entertaining, fun to watch. But I'm gonna go ahead and lobby to, in the 90s TV bracket, I'm going to go ahead and lobby to move Seinfeld right past all the way to the championship round. It's at the top of everything. So I don't think that's even a discussion.
Seinfeld was, for me, as a little older than the two of you, was I remember we all got together in college and went to a friend's house to watch the finale. That was it was the first appointment viewing show that I remember as a pseudo adult, whatever I am and what stage when I was in college. And that was appointment viewing. It was the only thing that we did that way. Everything else we may catch sometime when it came out on VCR or something like that in the VHS tapes days. Man, was that, because you couldn't catch up. But But whose line it is anyway? I remember that coming up like when I first started and graduated from college, going in and just watching it. It was one of those that would have reruns on, and you could just catch it, and you're like, and you can jump in at any point because the storyline wasn't linear. And if you catch it 15 minutes into the show, you're just fine, and you're laughing for those 8 minutes. And it was a different. I can't think of another show like that where you could jump in and just kind of boom. But I agree. I mean, Seinfeld, unfortunately, this is first of all, how did it get a 13 seed by Ranker.com? But I had to go with that. That's what this, hey, we're sandbagging here. But I agree. It is a unanimous again. Seinfeld has to move on. It is so good. All right. So we're going to the upper right-hand corner of this bracket, the 15 versus the 18 seed. This is my daughter, my oldest daughter, 16, Audra, has gotten into the X-Files more than I've ever gotten versus Family Matters, the Urkel and the Winslows and this is the first one where it really gapped. The Family Matters, I would have considered a 80s television show, but it went all the way into 94, where it completely jumped the shark. But X-Files versus Family Matters, are either of these shows you watched?
Urkel all the way. Family Matters gets this one. Hands down.
I have to agree. I never watched the X-Files. Wasn't my thing.
Nope.
All right. Well, and I was guessing we didn't bring in some science fiction people. So X-Files certainly set a generation of those who love science fiction and a genre of television shows that's, I think, probably eventually turned into, if you follow its lineage, and I don't know this, I'm making this up, it's coming out clearly parts of my body you don't want to know about, but my guess is that the X-Files came out of, or Game of Thrones wouldn't have existed if you watched the lineage because of things like the X-Files, because it pushed the limit of what we thought television could do in science fiction. And Game of Thrones was more, epic, and certainly it had a giant budget. But X-Files just was creepy and a little bit weird, and you had a genre that never has succeeded for long terms on television, but is critically loved and does really well in reruns. And I think Netflix has stepped in. But at the end of the day, I've got to be an Urkel fan. Family Matters was just
absolutely,
because it's one of those shows that I've gone back, and all my kids now, they get annoyed eventually. Like my two oldest, who are 14 and 16, don't want to watch Family Matters anymore. But my 10-year-old is just growing out of it, and my 7-year-old loves watching the old Family Matters. And so that Hulu has it, we will often pop it on. They've watched the whole season. We've watched the final season where it's just the bizarrest thing about how they, so they fast forward, and Urkel, it's just, I just can't believe it. And how they actually changed mothers the last season, which was so just, if the mom's not going to come back, just quit. If when it's on the first season, but you just come on, we're not that stupid. So now we got one last one. So Family Matters moves on. They'll be taking on Home Improvement, Mr. Tim Allen, tomorrow. But we've got one last one in the first round. Sabrina versus the Golden Girls. I have seen one of these two. I'm not going to admit which one quite yet. I'm going to guess this is a hard one I'm going to be intrigued if either Jason Lee and Danny have seen either of these shows. Sabrina the Teenage Witch versus the Golden Girls. Have you guys seen it? Jason Lee, have you seen any of these shows?
I have seen the Golden Girls, and I love them. They're hilarious. I've actually never seen Sabrina, though. It's not one I watched.
So, and it's what's so interesting about shows, there's so many, we always say this is the golden age of television, but which it is, there are more shows than by just numbers, but there are so many shows that were very popular that none of us have seen. And in fact, I would say Sabrina became really popular probably with, in fact, I was reading it, from 2000 to 2005, right as we got into some streaming capabilities, buying DVDs, things like that, with, young middle-aged teenagers and tweeners, specifically girls, and became really popular. And it's interesting, and Jason Lee hasn't ever even seen it. So, peace. But Danny, have you seen Sabrina, or are you probably aware of it, the Golden Girls?
I've not seen Sabrina. Wasn't Sabrina wasn't that the cat?
Yep.
There was a cat.
I believe so. Yep.
And the cat, I think, was one of the cats from Hocus Pocus movie or something like that. It was,
wow.
I can't remember that.
Look at him. He's got the expo knowledge.
I got to go with Blanche and Betty White.
Betty White.
I mean,
come on.
She's still rocking. And out and about, so yeah, I've got to go with the Golden Girls. Although no, I was not avid watchers of either of those.
I've never seen Sabrina. I do know it has a cat in it. That's as much as I know. And I did a little reading last night just because I always do that and just trying to like wonder why it didn't hit it just never came in. It was nothing you'd watch. And now I don't even, actually it's one of those that hasn't been even picked up a streaming because it was slow to get involved in streaming. The Golden Girls, like I remember that was something my mom loved and I thought was kind of funny, so I kind of watched it, and it was very character driven. You kind of fell into each one of the characters. You kind of got grossed out by all of them at some point. As for me, a 15-year-old, I'm like, oh, don't, Blanche, stop. But
what would Brian Linky say? Brian Linky would absolutely go with the Golden Girls.
Absolutely.
100%.
In fact, he might have dated one of them at one point. So.
Oh, he may have. All right. So on that, we've moved on to The Simpsons versus, as we go through this the next couple days, The Simpsons will be taking on Everybody Loves Raymond. Saved by the Bell will be taking on Seinfeld. Ooh, that's going to be a fun discussion when we get there. Home Improvement versus Family Matters. And the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air will be taking on the Golden Girls in our bracket as we move on. But we're going to move on to our next.
Friends?
Friends is 7 seed. It's in the next round. Friends is
Okay.
Friends,
All right,
which I did not stage this,
this.
but Friends is taking on Cheers.
That's what I'm going to lobby to make it to the championship round because I think it has to go.
But in the total, because I just took Ranker.com and put them together, and the 7 and 10 seed, which would meet together in a 20, were just randomly Friends versus Cheers, which I think are ultimately the exact same show, just started 20 years apart, and they both crossed over into the 90s. Cheers finishing at the beginning of the 90s, and then Friends taking over and finishing at the beginning of the 2000s, and it's fascinating those two came together, so that'll be a discussion for another day. All right, now on to our next topic. It's time for What Might Have Been. So this past Thursday and Friday, Mr. Elon Musk decided to go to Twitter and personally cost his company $15 billion by jumping out and saying, hey guys, my company's totally overrated. Then he says, hey, I'm selling all my possessions. I'm not going to own any house. I'm going to live as a vagabond down by the river. Then he jumps in and starts yelling at the California governor and Gavin Newsom. And I looked at all these things and it made me think, I don't want to go into what he did and all those things, but it brought him back to my attention. Not that he leaves all that too often. And it made me think, what might have been if Elon Musk hadn't started up jumping at with Peter Thiel and Reid Hoffman and founding PayPal. Then he jumps in and he starts in with Tesla, and we forget Tesla was already kind of starting, but he certainly turned it into what he did. He brought his money and investment. He thought, hey, I want to take and go back to the moon. Oh, nope, I'm going to go to Mars, because that's where I really am from. I'm not really from South Africa. I'm going back to Mars, so I'm going to find SpaceX. Then I'm going to burrow holes under the roads and try to figure out how I can do hyperloops and do tunnels. And I'm going to have the boring company. And then I'm going to do major, flamethrowers and whatever else he has that's mine. His giant, as a guy I always listen to, Pat Max, his giant brain is amazing of Elon Musk. But what might have been if he didn't do it? Because I think he's pushed us in so many layers. He pushed us in technology, in payments, starting with PayPal. Then he pushed us to Tesla and electric cars. I'm just interested, as you guys look at it, what might have been? Would all these things exist if Elon Musk wasn't part of this century? Danny, what do you think?
I only know of Elon Musk from like SpaceX and Tesla. I'm not as in depth with what he's done like you are, Nate. But obviously, I kind of look at this the same way we had a conversation about Jeff Bezos, right? And how he just really made everybody up their game. What's unique about Elon is how he's done it in so many different verticals, right? And like you just riddled off there, I mean, payments and Tesla and SpaceX and flamethrowers, and before you know it, he's gonna make, I don't know, the best carpet of all time. Who knows? But the guy is just a visionary, and I think it's something that we all try to I don't want to say emulate because nobody's emulating Elon Musk, but it's something that we all kind of want to do, is kind of set the bar, right? And make everybody around you better. And that's something that Elon does.
Absolutely. I think,
Absolutely.
Jason Lee, you're the younger and prettier version of all of us here today. What things did you, like when you hear Elon Musk, for me, I always think back to PayPal, because that's when I first became aware of him, when he was part of what now referred to as the PayPal Mafia and starting PayPal, which obviously has a big impact on what we are. But when you hear Elon Musk, what comes to your mind first, and what's your thoughts about Elon Musk?
Yeah, I'm the same kind of with Dan. The first time I really think I heard of him was Tesla, SpaceX. I think, when you say what might have been, I think if he hadn't done it, somebody else probably would have. Now, would it be nearly as far along as it is with what he's done? Probably not. I would say, I think we talked about this pre-show. He just had a baby yesterday or the day before. So let's credit some of his crazy tweets to the stress of about to become a new dad. But I think that, for me, it's really Tesla and SpaceX. And I think if he hadn't done it, somebody else probably would have.
Totally.
I think, and I agree that if somebody would step in, but I think it takes that special mind, and that's what I was thinking with Elon. There are times I'm like, I don't know that he should be the CEO of SpaceX and Tesla right now, running the day-to-day operations of those companies, though I don't know that he's all of that operations. But his mind and his capability to think things outside the box, to think of capabilities and to jump in, because he actually, the beginning schematics of SpaceX, he actually designed, because he is an engineer. When it was PayPal, he wrote the code. There are very few people that are of that. This is Einstein-like capabilities that I don't know if he didn't exist. It may have taken us another 20 years to push ourselves some of this. With electric vehicles, all the big all the big car companies, the auto industry, Detroit, literally had just given up on trying to do it. And he came in and said, hey, this is a possibility. And now all those companies in different fashions, and the Porsche and the Audi and the European car companies and even the Japanese car companies are all trying to follow the model that he set apart, because he had a vision to be able to do it. And I think my thing on, whether, what might have been if he hadn't, I think we'd probably be 10 to 20 years behind where we are in most of these industries. I think in payments, if PayPal didn't exist, Square doesn't exist. So if it takes 5 more years for PayPal to exist, then Square is 5 to 10 years further down the road. Stripe is further down the road. What we do at PayProtech is further down the road. And Elon Musk has set us and pushed us to think outside the box. Now, as he does that, then we also becomes controversial, and then those companies become public companies. There's all kinds of stuff to get into, but as a whole, for me, Elon Musk, what an incredible mind. If I could get him focused on just those things, sometimes it's interesting. His whole, did you guys ever hear I forget where it was. Oh, it was a tech, I think it was with Kara Swisher, Walt Mossberg, one of them. He did an interview probably 4 or 5 years ago where he said he really starting to think that we're really just a simulation, and that the Earth is just one big simulation. Did you guys ever hear him talk about that?
No.
This is the type of mind that he is. He literally was sitting around thinking, he thought, oh my word, we're not human. We're just simply, and it's like he had watched The Matrix and gone to a whole nother level. And this is where his brain is going, to places that none of us can go and be able to compute the way he computes. And I'm so glad that Elon Musk is part of our world, and as I've heard several people say, maybe he's probably not from this world, and he just came here to bless us with new ideas so we catch up with whatever is out there in the outer space. Those are my topics on Elon Musk. We're going to move on to something that's closer to Danny's heart, and I actually don't know, Jason Lee, if you're a fan of golf or racing, so you can tell me, but who's going to compete first? Both have come out in a plan. Are they going to be able to follow through with their plan in the next couple of weeks? And then what's it going to look like to start seeing these things on television with no one on the big screen, or no one in the stands, and the big screen's just going, whoa, what's going on here? Because it's not like golf, you can kind of film it, and yes, we won't see the galleries. With racing, how do you not see the empty stands? What do you guys think?
I don't think it changes anything for racing, really. As far as the overall experience of being at a race, it's amazing. But actually the impact it has on the drivers, they're not in the track, right? They're not in the moment and in the game with them, to affect anything. Whereas in golf, I mean, there's patrons lining the fairways, right? And almost creating like a tunnel vision for players. I don't want to say making it easier, but it definitely simplifies lines and makes a few things a lot different, I should say. But and you hit into this grandstand, you get a free drop, or you hit this person and you get a free drop, and it saves you from going out of bounds. Like there's a lot that changes with golf, and I think it's going to be a totally different game for a lot of these competitors as this opens up on the golf side. But I think golf is going to be the first one out to start it, and they should be, right? It's less contact with everybody, although racing's right there, other than just with your pit crews. But those two, I think it's a no-brainer to get them back going again.
Jason Lee, are you a fan of racing? Are you a fan of golfing? And are you, or are you going to become that now that this is the world we live in? You are now
a football girl, man.
Yeah.
Texas football and baseball. I grew up watching racing with my dad, so while I don't really enjoy it, I have fond memories of it growing up watching it with him. I think, like Danny was saying, there's more contacts, there's more people that go into racing, pit crews, camera crews, that kind of stuff. But I think golf will open up first. I don't think it takes as many people to get a golf game going as it does a full race. I did golf for the very first time last summer, 2 summers ago, with my husband, and I actually did quite well. So I really want to start golfing more. Not at Danny's level, I'm not quite there yet, but I do want to start golfing more because I really enjoyed it. So, but I do think golf will be the first one to start competing again. If I could just get some baseball, I'd be happy. But if I have to watch golf, I suppose I'll do it.
I think we'll all say that. I think we all agree with the baseball comment for sure.
And I think there's going to become it's all these sports. They're all like we're seeing, and I've seen the videos of. I think it's in Singapore or Hong Kong. This is terrible. I feel terrible not remembering which smaller connected to China country it is. But they have a 4-team Major League Baseball league. It's the highest league currently playing, and they have they've done all kinds of creative things to put like cardboard cutouts in the stands and all kinds of things to try to like bring this a little bit of, because it's weird for the players, and I think it's going to be weird. I agree, racing, it won't feel as weird, but they're used to seeing, they're not used to seeing, empty metal bleachers as they go around the corners, and they're going to be in Darlington and Charlotte. And I was like, man, those are giant racetracks. And the one thing, the blimp is not going to go flying over the top because, and maybe it is, but it's just going to look like, here's our empty racetrack, because it does take quite a few people to get it going, but it's going to be like 150 people, each race, you got 33 racers or whatever, maybe up to 40 in NASCAR. I'm not 100% sure on that. And then let's say each one, you're talking under 1,000 people in a place that seats hundreds of thousands of people. It's going to be a weird thing, but I think it's good for our psyche that these things can move on, because we have to figure out different ways to do business. And that transitions us to our fourth topic. As Papertech, as we continue to talk verticals each day this week. Yesterday we were talking about salons and barbershops, which are now opening up, hopefully going to give me my skin fade here soon. And I can't wait to be back in there to be able to do that. But how are we going to help the trades and the services, those who are plumbers, who are now fully allowed to go back to houses, but now you have to do it with social distancing. You have to start thinking through those processes, and you have to think about how you take payments, because, man, if you're going to do social distancing, you've got to start thinking about how do you take that card and move it. And this is true with all industries, from one person to be able to take that payment. Do you want to take a paper check, which is so many of these industries are still doing? Let's talk about lawn care and nurseries and landscapers who are doing things for us, all that, maybe tow trucks. There's lots of services that are helping us out that are now going to be back into full force as we start driving in, well, not full force, but back into working in our homes. As I stand here in the basement, there's a painter outside this house painting the exterior of the house, and it's back to work now in Indiana because painting wasn't allowed, even though that sounds like the most social distancing thing in the world. What are things, Jason Lee, I'm going to start with you. When you talk to our partners, and our partners, I have never talked to a partner that works with you that doesn't say, wow, I just love working with Jason Lee. When they say, I have a plumber, what are the first things you work through of what products we have that can help those plumbers?
Absolutely. If we haven't beaten it to death already, obviously cash discounting is, more important now than ever. Just giving them the option to save themselves the money in this time where we all need to make a little bit more money, but still work. And then I think, obviously the mobile readers, the mobile solutions are always great, but making sure that they understand and can take full advantage of everything that we do have to offer. Invoicing, reoccurring invoicing. If you have someone, a landscape guy who comes and mows your yard every 2 weeks, and just set it up to send it to them every single time. So making sure that they can take full advantage of everything that we have to offer within what they're already getting. A lot of times merchants will just get their terminal and that works fine. But then 6 months, 8 months, a year later, they need something else and they had access to it all along. They just didn't know. So making sure that they understand what they have, understand how they can use it and how it can help their business.
I think that's good. Danny, what are things for our partners when they're working? What are some of the hardware things as you think about the logistics of working with places that are going into the homes and taking payments? What are things we can help them with to think through the logistic process of taking that payment, whether it's in person or turning that into a card not present transaction, even though you are present in the vicinity of the person? What are some things we can do there?
Yeah, no, I mean, and Jason Lee kind of hit the nail on the head and going along with that question, Nate. And it's, giving these merchants these options, but encouraging them to go away from that. And I think it's kind of eye-opening to think these industries that you mentioned, how many of them, other than like tow trucks, how many of them are still not taking card payments, right? They're still taking checks. They're still taking a lot of cash, which obviously a lot of people want to avoid accepting right now because of what's going on. And then Nate, you and I have talked in detail about even these card present transactions where, someone's coming to your home and doing a service, whether it's mowing the grass, flowers, fixing plumbing, electricity, painting, anything like that. They're there, they can accept the transaction like on a Pay Anywhere mobile solution. But why even do that, right? Why not send them an invoice? Why not collect the payments before even providing the services? And just in that way, you're not really having to come into contact with them. There's all these options that people and more importantly, these merchants need to know about so they can start thinking down that path as they start to reopen. I do want to mention though, did you say a skin fade? Is that what you said on the? I've never heard that.
You've never heard of that? Come on.
It's a bald fade, and that's and a high fade, a high bald fade. But I've never heard skin fade. That's a new.
Hey, us Midwesterners have different words, and I may be the only one who uses that. I'm not sure, so who knows? But I don't know. But that's what I just know that I started it with my barber 6 months ago, and now I crave it because I can't get it right now because I'm not willing to do it for myself because I'm just not going to. Not going to go there unless I'm shaving my head, which I've done once in my life. Danny, I don't have as good looking a head as you do. So let's talk about some of those products like that card not present or doing other types of. So you have invoicing, you have the ability to just take payment on an app where let's say you could do custom app build where you're saying, I'm going to have an app, download the app, I'm going to send it, pay it while you're doing in here. It depends on some of those fixed prices, but there's so many unique ways to payment. I also think with Jason Lee, and when we were talking about edge pricing and the cash discount pricing, the obstacles used to be, I don't want to lose money and I don't want to have to raise my rates. Well, now I think every customer is willing to pay your card fees and pay the extra 4% in order to do that, and make sure you are made whole completely and that you are paying exactly what you're going to get. And then on top of that, the convenience of those transactions. I think some of these services, I know this was true in tow trucks and it was true in taxis. People started realizing, I don't want to carry cash. I don't have cash on hand. I don't even know where my checkbook is. So if you didn't say you accepted credit card, you lost the business. What are other obstacles, Danny or Jason Lee, that you have heard from merchants or our partners that are in the service industry like this of why they haven't accepted credit cards or why they're trying to encourage that to be their last resort and they just barely have like a square in their pocket where they're paying through the nose, but they're willing to, that's the last resort to get that payment?
It's pure cost, right? I mean, and the majority of these, that you're mentioning are smaller operations, or they've been in business for such a long time and doing it one way. And credit card processing just has never been an expense that they've had to bear. So as it's gotten more popular and as people don't get checks anymore, we hear from it all the time, new merchants, new partners that come on board. We need to verify bank information. Well, I don't have a check, right? And more and more people are going away from that too. So card acceptance is more popular than ever. And a lot of these businesses are trying to implement that, but not have the burden of all the cost that comes along with it. And that's where, going along with what you and Jason Lee were talking about, like cash discounting, every solution that we're mentioning here, from mobile to invoicing to even just a virtual terminal, taking a payment over the phone prior or after providing a service, all of these can do the cash discount program and eliminate the costs for these businesses. So I would say that the biggest thing for them is wanting to avoid that expense, and these things can do it for them.
Absolutely. And Nate, I agree with you in that, now more than ever, us as consumers, I don't know about everywhere, but I live in a real small town. Us as consumers, we're completely fine paying that extra percentage because we want our local small businesses to stay in business. We want to support them. We want to make sure they're still there when all of this is over with. And so we're all supporting them and trying to help them stay in business. So we're completely fine paying that.
Yep. It is. This is a different world we are now in, and it's an important world for us to help our merchants realize they can have the technology that they need. So if you're a plumber, you can do invoicing, you can do contactless payments, you can do card not present payments, you can do every type of payment, and you can do it for no cost. In fact, put the square and throw it through the window, because you can absolutely have the opportunity to have the best hardware, the best software now running your business, and it's not going to cost you any extra. It's not going to take anything from your bottom line. You're going to have the equal numbers. A couple updates as we finish to our fifth topic today. Vicky Helm says, I'm not even totally sure what I said that made this comment, but she says, Nate Manahan, isn't it 2020, or are we skipping this year forever? And I'm not sure what I said that brought that comment up, because I didn't see it until after it come up. But yes, I think we just should skip. In fact, welcome to 2021. We're here. Okay, guys, we've moved on. We're open for business. And lastly, to Danny, Josh Brown just said, skin fades are real, and he used the real Danny. And just so you know, now I'm vindicated. So, all right.
It's a bald fade, guys. Okay, get with the terminology if we're going to talk about it. But those of you who know, I did a bald fade last year, and Matt Hoskins made sure that I didn't do that again, because me with hair on top and no on the sides just doesn't look right. I'm more of a cue ball kind of guy, so it works.
All right, well, now we are going to figure out, what are we doing to celebrate Cinco de Mayo? Quarantine edition. Most of us can't go to a bar, we can't hang out, but I'm sure there's some stories of things we can do to celebrate Cinco de Mayo. So, Danny, Jason Lee, what are you doing today, or a story of a past celebration of Cinco de Mayo as we celebrate? Well, we're not even sure what he celebrated, just an excuse to have margaritas and go have tacos. But, yeah, Danny or Jason Lee? Let's go Danny first. Who are you?
Nate, we took a bite off the Manahan move yesterday. You talked about a taco bar. So we're doing a little taco bar action tonight. We're going to set it up outside, grill some carne asada, maybe a couple of Coronas. But those are going to be all me. The wife is not able to indulge, so she'll be watching, and we're going to try and get my 2-year-old to eat a taco as opposed to like macaroni and cheese or something like that. We'll see if that works, but it's a lot different than it was several years ago when it was like Cinco de Drinko and everybody's out, and it's also pretty cool that Cinco de Mayo falls on Taco Tuesday, so I think that's pretty fitting, and we've got to go taco bar tonight.
Awesome. Very good. All right, Jason Lee, what are you going to do for Cinco de Mayo, or is this something you've celebrated in the past?
Oh, absolutely. Celebrated it, in college. I embarrassingly did not think this through all the way, and we did tacos last night. So I can't exactly make my family eat them again tonight. But I have a really favorite drink from a local restaurant that decided to close down during this time, so I can't get it, and I'm craving it. And so I've been trying to come up with other drinks that I could have that will fill that crave. So I've been making watermelon margaritas here at home, and they're pretty good. So I'll probably have one watermelon margarita tonight.
Oh, we know how you're going, Jace. Just cut it off at 5, all right? So, no, and
if I go to for 5, I got to take the day off tomorrow.
I love, there was some type of war, and I don't know totally why we celebrate, but I love that we're celebrating a culture that is very important to the United States and very important to us, and it's an opportunity just to get together, and we're looking for that. Every day is a national day of something. May is National Salsa Month. Today is Cinco de Mayo. It's also National Strawberry Month, and there's all these things that we look just to celebrate because we want to, and more now than ever we need to figure out ways to do it. For me and my kids, we're going to have a little taco bar, so you could have chicken and ground beef. I was going to do a little barbacoa, but I couldn't get a good roast to do that in the slow cooker, so I chose, because I have personally made the personal commitment to make sure all food is delivered to me and I don't have to go get it. So if it can't come to me, I couldn't get a roast, and I waited a little too long. But we're going to have a whole taco bar. I'm going to try to introduce them to some new flavors, and that's always a test. They all like tacos, so I always try to introduce a couple new flavors and try to do things, but just have fun with it and celebrate a heritage that is so important. The Latino and heritage across the United States as we do that, and just having a little bit of fun while we're at it. I've been trying to figure out, I bought some lime juice and some stuff. I'm going to try to do some some virgin margaritas for my kids, just to kind of be able to celebrate that tonight. And it is Taco Tuesday, so you got to have a taco. I didn't even think about that, Danny, because I've never been a celebration of Taco Tuesday, but LeBron James tried to trademark that, so that is how he rolled as we finish up our Cinco de Mayo celebrations. So, Danny, Jason Lee, we've won. Congratulations, Jason Lee. You finished 5 topics. We talked about it. It wasn't too bad, was it?
Yay! No, I had a great time. That was a lot of fun.
All right, we try to have a lot of fun as we break this up. We're here every morning, right around 10 to 10:15. We go live. People are watching it. It is, Vicky did correct me. Apparently in the title when I went stream, as I was doing it the last second, I wrote Cinco de Mayo dash 2019 in the title. I'll go and edit those where places that allow me to edit it. We do stream to 8 different places, and some of them don't allow me to edit it. So if you're watching this, you made it all the way to the end. No, it's not 2019. It is 2020. We're looking forward. Either way, there was a better, there was easier times, either direction. At closing comments, as we finish up a little bit here, we'll let Jason Lee give last words after Danny. Danny, closing words to our wonderful partners and all those watching, the fans, as we celebrate Cinco de Mayo. Closing words to everybody.
Yeah, it's Tuesday. A lot of you are back at work. We've had some great conversations, really since end of last week and going forward. We're pushing out a lot of stuff, so make sure and stay tuned with everything that we're doing. A lot of enhancements on cash discounts and some announcements coming out later this week too. So let's get hard at work, and we're back at it.
Awesome. And Jason Lee, you made it. You did the first, and you will be back. I can guarantee that.
Yeah.
But you continue to make us better looking. So tell us, what do you say to our partners and to our friends across the United States that are continuing to fight and strive? What's your moment of encouragement for all of them?
You know, it's feeling busier. It's every day feels a little bit busier. Definitely a lot coming in, a lot of questions coming in. A great time to learn some new stuff. Like Danny was saying, some big enhancements to cash discount. So it's coming. Like I feel it. It's getting busier. Everything's picking back up, and I'm just excited. Like the weather's beautiful. We're getting into summer. It's just a good time to be out there and getting back to work.
It is. And I would say to everybody, thank you to Danny, thank you to Jason Lee. Brian, we missed you. He'll be back tomorrow. I think tomorrow will just be the three of us if everyone's back. But then Thursday, I believe, we have Mike Stetzel. Is that right, Danny? I didn't look at my calendar correctly.
Coach Mike coming on Thursday.
Coach Mike coming on Thursday. So it's going to be a great time as we have this. So as we close out, as we do, it's the time for our high five. And listen, virtual high fives. There we go. All right. Now the sound's right. Everybody, we'll see you guys soon. High five. Everybody's got to dance. The high five. We'll see you tomorrow.